Beast mode here. Stop playing passive and unleash the beast. With this video, the Vienna game is about to become your ultimate weapon. I'm talking about fearlessness, aggression, relentlessness, domination, you name it, whatever you want, the Vienna's got it. So let's dive into the theory and some opening ideas. So when we're looking at the Vienna, we're looking at these specific moves, e4, e5, and knight c3. And then from this point on, we're going to talk about really 6 major responses from our opponent. All right, and we're going to go in order from what I see the most at my level, around 1600 rapid, and then we'll go on from there. So the first variation of the Vienna we're going to look at is the max Lange Defense. So that is the response knight c6, and to this move we are going to play bishop c4, and depending on what our opponent does, we'll take a look at this line first here where they go knight f6. We are going to play d3, defend our pawn. And then there's a couple responses our opponent could play. If they go knight to a5, we're just gonna drop the bishop back. And then if they take back with the pawn, we got an open file for our rook here. Say in this position, our opponent goes bishop to b4. We're gonna bring our other knight out to e2. And this is kind of an idea you see a lot of these in a lot of these lines in the Vienna. Is this knight on g1 jumping over to e2, playing a couple different roles. A lot of times it's going to be protecting this d4 square, other times it's going to be supporting our knight on c3. But just keep this move in mind for a couple other of these lines in the Vienna. But after this move here, say our opponent goes d5, which is a pretty common response. I've been in this exact position before and I see this move quite a bit. We're going to take back with the pawn. If they take back with the knight, which is really their only move, we're just going to castle out of it. Then in this position here, say they take, we take back, and they go for all these exchanges. The simple idea here is we have this beautiful bishop on this diagonal. We're going to get our queen out, develop our other bishop out, and just kind of get a nice sort of kingside attack going, right? So let's rewind quite a bit, and we're back to, I believe it was this position right here. So our opponent goes bishop c5. We are then going to play the standard Vienna move f4. Okay, so here, most common response is d6 at our level. We're going to develop our knight behind this f pawn here, and a lot of opponents are going to go for this this trick right here, attacking this f2 square, right, by jumping their knight over. All right, but not to worry, this is actually beneficial for us because we have a little trick up our sleeves here. All right, so our move is knight to g5. Okay, and you might be thinking, well, doesn't this give up the fork? And yes, it does, but we have a nice little response to that. So say our opponent goes knight f2 here. All right, it's actually a mistake because queen h5, and now we're putting immense amounts of pressure from the knight, from the queen, and our bishop, and we get a nice, beautiful counterattack right here. Okay. Now, the better move for our opponent here is just to go bishop f2 check, right? And we just slide our king out of the way, no worries. All right, and it's still relatively even. The evaluation says white's only +1 here, but eventually we'll be able to push our pawn, threaten this knight here, maybe even take the bishop. But that's the correct moves if we reach this position here. Say our opponent castles, then again we're going to push this f pawn, putting an attack on this knight on g4, right? So some cool little lines there, something definitely should know going forward, because a lot of opponents will like to jump this knight forward. So rewind. Those are the main lines you'll see against the knight f6 move here. If we go bishop c5. All right, this is one of my favorite lines. Definitely stuff you need to know. I've won countless games in this position right here. Kind of like a symmetrical variation. And our move, after our opponent plays bishop c5, we go queen g4. And our opponent can't copy us anymore. Main response that you're going to see here is queen f6. All right, and they're attacking this f2 pawn right here. All right, they like playing this move because it defends their g7 pawn that we were attacking, and it also gives them somewhat of an attack for themselves. But the cool thing about this is we can just ignore that threat on our f2 pawn. So we jump our knight in to d5, and we're attacking the queen here. Also, simultaneously, we're attacking the c7 pawn, threatening the fork. And most people, they tend to forget about this pawn right here because we're attacking their queen. And also, they're like, oh, free pawn, let's attack their king, which is what they're going to play 99.9% of the time. And we just slide our king over one square. Now, we got this attack back open on g7. We're threatening this fork as well. And there's not really an attack they can do on our king. Our king is relatively safe here out in the open, right? They only got one attacker at the moment, and that's their queen. They can't really do much here. All right. So next, depending on what our opponent plays, say they go g6, and they're defending the square right here. We don't give the fork yet. We don't go for that yet. We keep that in our back pocket, and we play the move knight to h3. All right, it looks kind of counterintuitive, like it's not really a natural move, I guess. But I promise you, if you memorize this line, you'll get this position eventually in one of your games. All right, and notice, boom, 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 boom. Literally, none of these squares can the queen go to. All right, the only square is right here on d4. All right, so they're going to think a little bit in this position and then eventually play it, but we still have a very good chance to trap the queen. All right, so they're attacking our bishop here. We got to play the move d3. All right, defend it. And you know what's coming next is this move, c3, to trap the queen. All right, and say they attack our queen back, we just slide out of the way, right? But our main idea here is play c3, okay? And if there are some positions where they'll move the bishop out of the way, if that's the case, we'll bring our rook over to this f file. Again, putting a lot of pressure. And remember, we still always have this fork right here. Say we can't quite trap the queen, they weasel out of it somehow, we still have that fork in our back pocket. All right, so don't forget about that fork. So let's go back a couple moves right here. Now, say they don't play g6, say they play king f8 to defend this and also get out of the fork here. Again, we go for that same line. We're going for the queen trap now. Unfortunately, we won't have this in our back pocket. So say they counterattack our queen, we just slide up to g5. Again, gotta defend that bishop. By sliding up to g5, again, all those squares are still protected. All right, boom, boom. Still can't go anywhere. Again, that is the only square. All right. So that's why we go to g5 with our queen once we get attacked. Again, we defend our bishop. Now in this line, they can counterattack right here. But no worries, we just slide our queen back down Now they do have an escape square for the queen, but depending on what they play, if they go knight f6, we're going to go rook f1. If they go attack our bishop, we just slide it back, which this is rare. I don't really ever see that line, but just something to keep in mind if they go for the counter attack. Or if they go h4 attacking our queen again, we just slide over back to this f3 square. All right, and then again, we're going to bring our rook to the f file and just put a ton of pressure, especially once we move this knight. Like, we're just going to exert an extreme amount of pressure on this f7 pawn. All right, so that's a line to know. If we go back to our position here, after they take our f2 pawn, say they just drop their bishop back to f8, right? They take their losses. They're like, I don't like it. I want to defend this pawn. I don't want to give it up. This is when we'll just cash in on the fork, and we're still winning a significant amount of the material, right? We did lose our right to castle, but we're up in exchange in return, which I think is a good trade-off. So this sequence of the symmetrical variation of the Max Lange defense, one of my favorite. It's definitely something that I see a decent amount in my games, so some good lines to definitely know. So we're back to this position here. We had just played bishop c4. We talked about the knight f6, those lines. We talked about the symmetrical lines. Let's talk about d6. All right, probably the rarer of the three so far. But nonetheless, we're going to go back to this move, knight g to e2, right? And the reason here is simple. We just got to defend this square from this knight jump right here, right? So say in this position, they go bishop g4. We're just going to castle out of it. No harm, no foul. And then now if they go in with the knight jump, it is actually somewhat of a mistake. We block that pin, we attack their bishop, kick it out of there, and then we can always take this knight. Not necessarily a mistake with that knight jump there, more of a positional disadvantage. Doesn't matter though. And then say after we go knight ge2, they go knight f6, attacking our pawn. Not really attacking it because it's defended, but we'll still put extra support on that pawn with d3, which is also another common idea in the Vienna, where we're just going d3 to support our e4 pawn here. Okay. And then we're just going to play on from this position here. Probably eventually you can put a pin on this knight here, go f4 eventually, castle, and just get a nice kingside attack going again as well. Okay. So the last main move you might see in this position here after playing bishop c4 is f5. All right, and if you see this move, it's a telltale sign your opponent doesn't necessarily know what they're doing. But it is necessary that you play the right moves here in order to not get punished by this, all right, and punish your opponent instead. So after f5, we're going to go d3 and just support our e4 pawn. And then a lot of times they're going to go knight f6, and then we're going to pin the knight with our dark square bishop. If they take, we'll take back, and then we're going to play on from this position here. Now that they don't have an f pawn, there's a good chance maybe we go take and then slide the queen out, something along those lines. And we're just going to punish them for moving their f pawn so early in the game. Instead of knight f6, say they go bishop c5, it's actually a mistake. We take the knight with our light square bishop that we developed early. They're going to take back with the rook. They're going to lose their castling rights. And we're going to give a check on h5 with our queen. They block with g6. You take the free pawn. If they move the king out of the way, it's actually their best move. We're just going to develop our knight. All right, we're not going to rush to take this pawn yet. Alright. We're going to get our pieces out, castle, and then go in for the attack. Alright, they already lost their castling rights. Their king's going to be stuck in the middle of the board. Don't rush it. Be principled here. Alright. So that's the main move after f4. Alright. And we just covered the max Lange Defense. Alright, so all those lines were after the move knight c6. So remember the main move, bishop c4, and then react to what your opponent does in this position. Okay? So the next common response you're going to see in this Vienna game after you play knight to c3 is the standard move, knight f6. Alright, and this is where we enter the Falkbeer variation. It also goes eventually into the mainline Vienna, which we are going to talk about next. So we go f4 after our opponent plays knight f6. f4 is the move, and if they go d5, this is where we're going to enter in what's called the main line. Okay, probably the most common response and the Falkbeer is people going down this main line variation. So after d5, we are going to take on e5 with our f pawn. All right, and then 99.9% of the time, they're going to take our e4 pawn. All right, in this position, very important. We got to play knight f3 to stop this queen check right here. This queen check in this position would be absolutely devastating. So knight f3, arguably one of the most important moves if you're going to play the Vienna. You got to know this move right here, knight f3. So after knight f3, you got really 5 different responses in this mainline Vienna. All right, main one I see, bishop c5. All right, here we're gonna shove our d pawn right down his throat. Pause. Right up the middle, attacking the bishop. Most of the time they're gonna slide over and pin us. We just deflect this pin with our own dark square bishop. If they castle, we take with our knight, and then maybe win the bishop here. Oh no, that's right. We take with our knight. They're gonna, if they take back with the pawn, take the bishop. If they take our other knight, take back with the queen. We're attacking this rook, so they're gonna slide over. Then we slide in with our other bishop, and we're putting a lot of pressure on this f7 pawn. Maybe we get the rook behind it as well, castle queenside, something along those lines. You get the main idea. Say they don't castle in this position here, say they go knight to d2, we just take back with the queen. Simple. And then we could also castle queenside here, get the bishop out. We could still castle kingside if we so chose, and get the rook on this open file. A lot of good options. I think it's a pretty easy position to play, in my opinion, but we're just going to play chess from this point on out. All right. Let's go back. Say in this position, so we just took with our f1. Say they go d4, and they're counterattacking our knight. We are going to take their knight again. They'll take. We're going to take back with the b pawn here. They take back with the queen. They're probably not going to take back with the pawn and willingly damage their own pawn structure. Most of the time they're going to take back the queen, and then we offer the queen trade right here. If they don't go for it, we're just going to take the big center with all our pawns, shove our d pawn forward, and we're going to play chess from this point on. If they go for the queen trade, just take back with the knight, and again, you're going to have this big center. Again, another relatively easy position to play. All right, so that line is if they counterattack it here. So my fault, I forgot. We got to go back to the to this position right here after we go knight f3 again. Remember, very important move right here. The first line we looked at was the bishop c5 line. there's 4 other lines we got to go over in this position right here. And again, this is the main line for a reason. You're probably going to see this quite a bit. So these are all lines that you definitely need to know. If they pin our knight to our queen with their light square bishop, we're going to go queen e2. All right, and threaten to win this pawn right here. So it'd be take, take, take. All right. Their best, or one of their decent moves, is going knight g5, putting a lot of pressure on our f3 knight. And here we're just going to ignore it. And if they go for it, we're going to take back with the pawn. We're not even worried about it, because we'll eventually castle queen, or queen side potentially. So take. If they give a check, we're going to block, and we're going to play on from this position. The evaluation is actually plus 0.5, 0.6, give or take. And the reason is we're going to have this open G file for our rook. We got a big center with our pawns. We get our bishop out. Even though our king isn't able to castle anymore, the queen's off the board, so it's not the end of the world. And you notice they got none of their pawns like in the center. We're the only one really contesting for the center of the board at the moment. So that's why this line's kind of decent. Don't really see this line a ton, but it's definitely something to keep in the vault. So going back, so there's the bishop g4 line. Let's look at bishop f5. So they're defending their knight in the center of the board. We're just going to kick the knight out with d3. All right, and we're going to play on from here. Let's also look at knight takes c3. Again, we're going to take it with that b pawn. Get the open b file for our rook. And then depending on what they play here, but we're likely going to expand in the center, get our bishops out, and play on. Again, cool thing about the main line here is all these positions are relatively easy to play because we're going to have this big pawn center going up the middle, which is why I like playing it. Last line here is c6. Computer says it's an inaccuracy, but we still got to prove it. We're just going to play the simple move here. Bishop e2. All right. Castle, kingside, get our rook eventually on this open file, and we're going to play on from here. All right, not a ton of theory to know in this position. We just got to play chess. But again, shove that pawn in the center, castle, and play on. So let's take a look at the exchange variation, if you want to call it, of the Vienna. So after we go f4, say our opponent takes with the e pawn. First, we are going to play e5. And the cool thing about this move is this knight cannot jump here, here, here. It's only square here either. Sorry. It's only square. It's back to his home square. So kind of a deflating move the opponent has to play. And yeah. So they're going to jump back to g8. There's a couple other moves. There is this weird move, knight d5, where they sack the knight and kind of reverse gambit us. It's not really good, though, if you know what you're doing. But let's take a look at g8. Here, again, we got to play knight f3 because this file, right, that queen check can be devastating if you're not prepared for it. All right, so develop the knight out. Here, if they go d6, we respond with d4. If they take, we don't take back right away because we don't want to trade queens just yet. All right, we pin the pawn with our queen. Say they just make a bishop move like this, attacking our knight. We take back and we threaten this g7 pawn here. Say they play another move, I don't know, like knight c6. We're going to take with our bishop, and again, this pawn cannot take because it is pinned. All right, so now we're putting a good amount of pressure on it. We're going to win that pawn back. So we go back to this position here. Let's take a look at if our opponent goes knight to d5. And the reason people play this is because we're going to take, and then they're going to give you a check on that diagonal that we were supposed to defend in the other lines. The difference about this time around, though, this check is not devastating because we are up a full piece. We're just going to slide our king up. All right, they give a check with the pawn. We're going to slide up even more. All right, and this allows our king to get away freely. If they give another check, we can block. Eventually, we're going to take this pawn back. Not the end of the world. You can take back right here in this position. Actually, no, sorry, you can't, because you take back right here, then boom. Wait, why is this queen e4 is a miss? Why? Oh, because we can just block. So that is an option. Sorry about that. You can just take back with the knight, but if our opponent goes, oh, right here, this check, this is why it hurts. So this check, so you, sorry, but you can do it. You're still winning, but our opponent can go over here, and you're gonna lose the knight back. So definitely something to keep in mind. So remember the moves, they check here, we just keep running the king up. Keep running it up, all right? So the last main move, you're gonna see a decent amount in this position here. After we push our e-pawn forward to e5, is the move queen e7. All right, here, we're just gonna go queen e2. Again, the reason they go queen e7 is because now this pawn's pinned and they're attacking it. So we slide our queen over, and we're re-instigating this threat on this knight here. So now they're gonna have to jump back again. And then here we're gonna go d4, get this big center again, take back this pawn eventually. If they give a check right here, we just slide our king over. Nothing to worry about, nothing crazy. And we're gonna play chess from this point on. Next move is probably gonna be knight to f3. And then we'll take this pawn back and we'll play on from here. We're gonna have a quick development, big center, and it should be a pretty easy position to play against your opponent. So going back to the Falkbeer, we got two other moves we gotta look at, two other responses to f4. Okay, so we looked at d5, going into the mainline Vienna. We looked at the exchange. Now we gotta take a look at knight c6, which you do see this every now and then. In this position, we are gonna take on e5. They're gonna take back with the knight, and then we're gonna shove our d-pawn in the center, attacking this knight. And depending on where they go, we got some responses for it. So they say they go to g6, we're gonna go e5, attacking the other knight, and it runs into the same problem in the exchange. Can't go here, right? Only move is back to its starting square, which is pretty sad. And then we're gonna develop our knight out. Remember, gotta protect this square right here from this check. All right. So going back, say in this position, they go back to c6. Again, we're going after this knight here. All right, it's got to go back and back to knight f3. All right, so pretty simple stuff in this line. So I like to think about it, if they bring their knight out to c6 in the Falkbeer, we're gonna take and then shove our pawns forward, and then the moves will come somewhat naturally, in my opinion, after this position. Going back, so after f4, the last move we're going to look at is d6. All right. Here, again, get the knight out to f3. And then two main moves you're going to see is bishop g4. If you see bishop g4, you're going to strike back in the center with d4. They take, you take back with the queen. If they take, you're actually going to take back with the pawn and have this nice center, open g file for the rook. Get your pieces out and potentially castle queenside, or don't even castle at all, up to you. If they take here, again, take with the queen. Right, so relatively easy stuff here. I know the only move that's a little unconventional here is taking back with the pawn. And the reason you do that instead of the queen is because then this pawn hangs. Alright, so we gotta keep protecting our d pawn here. Alright, so back to our Vienna starting position. We talked about knight c6, the Max Lange Defense. We talked about knight f6, the Falkbeer or mainline Vienna. Now we get to talk about some of the more offbeat type openings that you're going to see in this position. The first one, main one you're going to see the most, is what's called the Anderssen Defense. All right, and that's where they go bishop c5. And there's a couple different ways you can play this. I personally like the move queen h5. All right, and the reason being, there's a couple different tricks going down this line. There's not a ton of resources out there from the Anderssen Defense and some of these other offbeat responses that we're going to talk about here soon. But from what I could gather, it seemed like queen h5 was probably the most aggressive and some of the more fun positions, in my opinion. So our response after bishop c5 is queen h5. Four main responses you're going to see here. All right, let's talk about g6, immediate blunder. I don't know how much you'll see this past like 1200, 1300, but it will happen every now and then. G6, obviously, you take with the check and you win a rook. Nothing too crazy here. So g6 is immediate blunder in this position. Let's talk about d6. All right, so they defend this pawn here in the center. Our response is bishop to c4, and we're attacking this f7 pawn right here. All right, similar to a lot of other stuff in the Vienna, like a lot of it kind of ties together as you see, attacking this f pawn, either bringing the knight out to e2, or we're shoving the f pawn to f4. Just a lot of similarities, but I think it's important to be able to distinguish when to play what and what opening. All right, but here, bishop c4. Four main moves you're going to see here. Main one being queen f6. If they go queen f6, we're going to strike back with e4. If they take, it's a blunder. You shove the pawn back, attacking the bishop. And you open up an attack on their queen. Now, they do have the move bishop g4, attacking our queen. But we're going to give a check here, sacking the bishop, and then we're going to win their bishop. If they drop their bishop back, you give a check on c8, and then they're going to have to move the king forward. We jump in with the knight and give a check here. All right, so very important that we play this bishop sack here. It's not really a sacrifice, because we win their bishop back right away. All right, so if they bring the queen out, we jump out to f4, and if they take, d4. Okay. So say in this position, they go e takes d4. We're going to jump in with the knight, attacking the queen, threatening the fork again. Say here they go back to queen d8. We're just going to take this pawn and move on, play chess from here. So they go queen to e5, It's actually a blunder because they just give up the fork. Right? They can't go to e6 here because it would get them forked as well. So their only move is go back here. So we're back to this position after we play f4. Say they go bishop e6. Again, we're just going to jump in with our knight to d5, attacking the queen. They're probably going to take back with the bishop, and we'll take back, and we're just going to play on from this position. Just play chess from here. Last move you might see is knight to e7. Here we're just going to support our pawn in the center with d3. If they take, we're going to jump our knight over to e2. Alright, 2 attackers on this pawn, and we should be alright. If they go f3, just take back, get the open g file. And then if they jump the knight out, we'll go for this attack right here with the bishop. Say here they go g5, we're going to strike back with h4. And if they defend it with h6, you can take. They can't take back because we got 2 attackers on that rook. Alright, so some pretty long in-depth lines here. I think just understanding the main ideas after f4 in this position, and you should be in a decent spot. So quick refresher, we go queen h5, they respond d6, and our move is bishop c4. Alright, so we talked about the queen f6 lines here. Alright, we got to talk about queen d7. Alright, they go queen d7, we're going to slide our queen over onto this g file. They got another common idea you see a ton in the Vienna, is we're attacking this g7 pawn. Alright, if they jump forward with their f pawn, we give a check. If they block again, we just slide back. And then we created all these weaknesses on the king side. We're just going to play on and play chess from this point on. Alright, we got a lot of targets that we could realistically attack, so that's why I like this position here. Right, so that's why they shouldn't attack it with the f6 pawn. Going back, if they go queen d7, talking about that, g6 in this position. If they go g6 here, we're going to slide our queen back to f3. Alright, they're going to go knight f6 to defend this pawn. Oops, sorry about that. And if they knight f6, and we're going to defend our pawn with d3. And then if they attack our queen, just slide it out of the way. Play on, and we're just going to play chess from this point. Alright? Say they go queen e7, we make this knight jump again to d5, attacking the queen, threatening the fork. Alright, so again, see this idea coming up over and over again, jumping the knight in, threatening the fork. So let's go back, play queen h5. Those are all the d6 lines. After d6, we're going to play bishop c4. We talked queen f6, queen d7, g6, and queen e7. We talked about all those. And that's after the response of d6, and we go bishop c4. Alright, so other main move that you're going to see in this Anderssen defense is knight c6. Alright, and here we are going to go bishop to c4, and this looks oddly similar to the Max Lange defense, the symmetrical variation of it. All right, only difference is our queen is on h5 instead of g4. So if they go queen f6, going for the same idea in that other line, attacking this pawn, we're going to jump in with our knight just to protect it. And you might be asking, well, wait, can't I just let him take this and go boom? Can't I just go attack this just like the other line, let him take it? And the answer is no, you cannot, because now they can take our G pawn here and win our rook. Versus in the other line, they can't do it because our queen is on G4 over here protecting this pawn. So just something definitely need to know if you go real in depth with the Vienna. All right, so can't do that same line in this position with the queen on H5. Okay. So here, remember, correct move, knight F3. If they go knight G to E7, we're going to protect our pawn with D3. Say they play a random move like D6, we're going to castle, and we're going to play on from here, play chess. All right. Say in this position they go G6, we're then going to offer a queen trade. We have to offer a queen trade, unfortunately, in this position. If the evaluation says it's still even, let's say they take, we're going to take back, and we actually jump up a little bit in the eval, almost to 1, because we're attacking this pawn here, putting some good pressure on it. Say they don't take, and they go knight D4, we're going to take the queen and go for a bunch of these exchanges. At the end of these lines, we're jumping our knight forward, threatening that C7 pawn again as well. All right. So those are the lines I think it's important to know. And the Anderssen defense, we get, again, this symmetrical looking from the Max Lange line. But it's slightly different. The moves cannot be played exactly the same because that queen is on the H file versus the G file. All right, so we go back. We just looked at the knight C6 lines. Let's look at knight F6. All right, they go right away. They're attacking our queen. Here, we just take the free pawn. All right, and we're already up +1 because they blundered a pawn. A very important center pawn at that. All right, and they're probably going to block with, if they block with the queen, we'll just trade. If they block with the bishop, we're just going to develop as normal and play chess from this point on. We're back to our Vienna starting point. Talked about the Max Lange defense. Talked about the Falkbeer and main line. Talked about the Anderssen defense. So now, halfway there, we got to talk about another offbeat opening, and that's D6. And against D6, I really like playing what is called the Omaha Gambit. Why it's a gambit, I don't really know. And there's like basically zero resources on this, so a lot of this is what I found on the computer. But you do see D6 a decent amount in online games at my level. So the response after D6 is right away jumping in with F4. Then if they go knight F6, it just transposes into a Falkbeer. All right, and we have the same line that we saw before. So knight F6 transposes back to the Falkbeer variation. If we go E takes D4, this is where we officially enter what's called the Omaha Gambit. And the move here is Queen F3. Okay? From this position, all right, there's about 5 main moves that I got in my repertoire here. All right, first one is Queen H4 check. Okay? We're going to go G3. If they're going to take back with the pawn, threatening a discover check or something along those lines, we're going to take back. All right, and our rook now attacks the queen. Pawn attacks it. This file is empty, guarded. If they go back there, we'll probably ignore it, which they probably will. And then we're going to slide back into G2 and get out of the way. And then say they develop normally, we have this knight jump again as well. All right. So that's what to play after the queen check on this diagonal on H4. Okay. They go knight F6 in this position. We're gonna shoot our pawn forward D4. If they go bishop E7, just a normal developing move, we're gonna strike back with E5, putting pressure on the knight, and then taking the pawn again. Here, if they go knight to C5, we get a rook on the open file, if they go knight b6, we get that rook on the open file. All right, both ways attacking the queen. Decently easy line to remember. Going back, say in this position, they go knight c6. We're gonna pin the knight with our light square bishop. If they block it, we are going to go for this exchange. All right, and then get the big center with the pawns. If they develop their knight out, we're going to develop our knight out to e2. And I feel like this is relatively an easy position to play. We got all our pieces out, 2 pawns in the center. We're going to play on from here. We got the open f file for one of our rooks eventually. So I like this position a lot. All right, going back. Talked about queen h4, talked about knight f6, knight c6. Let's talk about bishop e7. Again, shoot the d pawn forward. They give a check with the bishop. You block. Attack with the rook. Develop our bishop out. We're not going to go for that trade here in this position. We're just going to keep developing our pieces. If they offer the trade here, we will take this one, and then we'll give a check with our queen. If they block, we win the. We'll go for this exchange right here, and we'll win a piece in this line. All right, so similar concept. When the queen gives the check, is the bishop. All right, another line. Last one. If they go g5 in the Omaha Gambit, we're gonna strike back with h4. Say they go f6. They weaken that diagonal. We give a check here, and that position pretty much plays itself. Say they go a normal move like knight c6. Again, we go for this pin, and we go for that trade as well. And then the knight jumps over to e2. All right, so a lot of the similar ideas in the Omaha Gambit, potentially pinning the knight on c6 with our light square bishop, then get our knight out to e2 and developing, playing chess from there on out. So some decent lines to know in the Omaha Gambit. Definitely need to play around with it more, and I encourage you to as well, but these are the baselines that I know, and a lot of these I feel like I'll see going forward in my games. All right, back to our Vienna starting position. Recap again. Went over knight t6, the Max Lange. Knight f6, the Falkbeer or main line. Bishop c5, the Anderssen. And we just talked about d6, eventually going into what we call the Omaha Gambit. All right, the last line that we're going to go over, another offbeat opening in the Vienna. You do see it every now and then, but it's the last official line that has a name, and that is the Zhuravlev Countergambit, whatever you want to call it. All right, and that is the move bishop to b4, and here in this position we immediately answer with d4. Okay, about 7 or 8 lines that we need to know going forward from this position. All right, first one we'll look at is the exchange. So e takes d4, immediately take back with the queen, putting pressure on this g7 pawn and attacking this bishop as well. All right, it's kind of a fork, not really, because they can get out of it. All right, but say here they go bishop takes c3, you just take back with the queen, and you're still putting pressure on it, on the g7. I mean, say they go queen e7, and you just take. It's a free pawn, take it. Not really worried about take and then take, because if they take here, we can always just take back, or just take with pawn. It doesn't really matter, either or. But we'll probably win a rook here. If queen takes, we'll just block with one of these pieces. No big deal, really, at all. Yeah, so that's the exchange. If they take on d4, we play queen d4. And there's really 3 moves you're going to see. Oh, if they go knight c6, same concept. You just take on g7. No big deal at all. Okay? So next line we're going to look at, all right, and there's pretty cool traps in this line. So if I were to remember one, it'd probably be this one, and that is queen h4, right? Threatening to take this pawn here because our knight is not defending it. It is pinned. But the thing is, we let them take that pawn. All right, so we go knight f3, they take, and then we block with our dark square bishop. And you might be thinking, well, what the heck? That gives up a fork. It doesn't though, because we go bishop to d3, attacking the queen. And then if they go to g4, going for this g pawn, we let them. We go h3, and then if they take on g2, the queen is trapped. All right, and this position is pretty interesting because I didn't see anything about this online. I kind of found it myself looking through the engine lines. I feel like it's somewhat natural. People might actually play it because they're attacking free pawns, and we give them the g pawn. They're probably going to take it if they're not really thinking, oh, my queen might get trapped. But the queen gets trapped here. Interesting enough, it is only plus 0.5 for white, even though black is about to lose their queen and they have no development whatsoever. So say the best move here, they take the rook, and then they win our knight. Like in this position, we're only plus 0.5, but we got all our pieces out pretty much. 3 pieces developed. We're gonna get our queen out and castle, and black still has all their pieces besides this bishop here, all stuck on the back rank. Which, if you had to tell me, just looking at it, like who is better, I'd say white by quite a bit. But black is up 2 points of material, but I wouldn't want to play this position as black, in my opinion. All right, so decent little line there to know. But say here, they don't go for the fork with the pawn. They just go d6. We're going to slide our queen up. If they take, we'll take back and then castle queenside potentially. All right. So let's go back to this position right here. So back to this position, we just went d4. We talked about e takes d4. We talked about queen h4. Let's talk about knight c6. All right, so here, if they go knight c6, we're going to take on e5. 2 main moves you might see in response. Knight takes e5, we're going to go queen d4. If they go back and attack it, this is the same position we saw in the earlier line. We just take the pawn on g6. If they go queen e7 defending it, bring our bishop out. If they take, we'll take back with the queen. And then we're going to play chess from this point on. Alright. Say they go in this position, instead of taking with the knight, they take with the bishop. We just take back with the pawn. And then they'll take. Then we go f4, attacking the knight, kicking it out. And we're going to develop our knight. And again, we're going to play chess from this point on. So nothing too crazy in this line here. So going back to the Zhuravlev d5 or d4, excuse me. We just talked about knight c6. Let's talk about d6 right here. We're just gonna take on e5. They take back, we'll trade the queens. They lose their castling rights, we'll play on from this position. All right, easy enough. Say after d6, they go knight d7. We're going to slide our queen out onto the g file, attacking that g7 pawn. If they take, we're going to take back the pawn by taking on g7. And they might be thinking, oh, it's no big deal. I can slide my queen over to f6. It's defended by my knight right here. And I can't lose the rook. But we'll just slide back out of the way, and we'll play on from here. So that's if they go knight to d7. All right, going back after d6, say they go d5. Same thing, we're gonna take on e5, and then if they go d4, it's a mistake because we go a3 attacking the bishop. They're not really winning our knight here. And we trade queens if it comes down to it. So they take with the bishop, we take back with the pawn. And yeah. But say in this position they go bishop c5, we keep pushing forward, kick the bishop out. And then we'll keep chasing it. Proceed to chase that bishop by jumping our knight over to d5. Okay, last line. Go all the way back. Is queen f6. So if they go queen f6 in this position, we're going to block that pin with our dark square bishop. If they take, we'll take back. That's really all I got in this line. Kind of more rare, I guess you could say. Haven't really seen this one yet, this queen f6 move. All right, but that's the Zhuravlev Gambit. Or not Gambit, excuse me. That's the Zhuravlev response with bishop b4. It's a counter gambit. Why it's a counter gambit, I'm not too sure. I don't really know, to be honest with you, why they call it a counter gambit. I don't know what black is gambiting. But yeah, so we'll go back to this position here. All right, so the last response we're going to look at, this one doesn't even necessarily have a name for it. I feel like a good name for it would be like a reverse king's gambit. All right, and that is the move f5 in the starting position here. All right, f5. I'm calling it the reverse king's gambit because why not? Cancel me, I don't care. So if they go f5, we're going to take back with our e-pawn immediately. I promise you it's safe, it's the right play. You can see immediately after they go f5, the eval immediately gives white plus 1.5. All right, so we take back right away. Not dangerous at all. They're probably going to jump out with knight f6. I don't know what other move they would make. And here, we're going to play the unique move, g4. Kind of counterintuitive, not really natural, but we're going to play it anyway. And we're going to solidify that that pawn on f5. Here are a couple moves they could make. If they go g6, trying to break it up, it's actually their one of their best moves. We are going to go g5 and kick the knight out. Depending where the knight goes back to g8. We're going to shove the pawn forward. And basically, that pawn's 2 squares away from queening. We're going to use it in a bunch of attacks, and it's never going to be lost, most likely. Okay. Say here they go knight h5. We're going to strike back in the center with d4. Say they go d5, then same thing. Or they make a random move. They could even go knight to c6 here. Either way, we're still going f6. All right, and the same concept. We're going to use that pawn in a bunch of attacks. Probably never going to lose it. All right, and you can see that position kind of sucks for black. It's like 7 moves in the game, and we already have a pawn 2 squares away from queening. And that's if they go g6. Now, if they go h6, stopping us from shoving that g pawn forward to g5, we're going to go knight f3. Say they make a normal developing move like knight c6. We're going to swing our knight over, and eventually, pretty much no matter what they play, we're swinging the knight over to g6 and getting it on that outpost square. And that knight is never going anywhere, and it's on a very important square. All right, but yeah, I mean, basically 0 things out there about this reverse king's gambit. This is what I have from my own research with the engine. I've seen f5 maybe in 1 or 2 games. but it is something that I have prepared for, so I'm giving it to you guys. So that is what I got on the Vienna game so far. So that's my opening repertoire for the Vienna Gambit. I hope you were able to take something from it. In conclusion, we talked about the Max Lange defense, so knight c6 response. We talked about the Falkbeer or mainline knight f6 response. We talked about bishop c5, the Anderssen defense, and then all these other offbeat openings like d6 going into the Omaha Gambit, or bishop b4, the Zhuravlev Countergambit, and the f5 reverse king's gambit. I don't know if anyone's trademarked that, but that's what I'm calling it. But yeah, I hope you were able to take something from the Vienna game. If you would like, I'd be more than happy to send you this analysis that I've made. Just drop a comment down below and I'll shoot you the game file for it. You can study it on your own. As you can see on the sidebar here, I got a bunch of notes and names for where you're at in the opening, but plenty of moves. Definitely a great opening to add to your repertoire. Really easy and allows for plenty of attacking ideas in this as well. Also, drop a comment down below if you want to play. I'll play in and we'll post a game recap on my channel as well. Again, thanks for watching. Beast Mode out.